You think you know Petra. Treasury carved into red cliffs, that famous shot from Indiana Jones, done. But here's what nobody talks about. 12 skeletons found this year beneath the most photographed monument on Earth. A hydraulic system that shouldn't exist for another 2,000 years. 85% of the city still underground. A civilization that wrote almost nothing down, yet built water networks more sophisticated than Rome's. Gods worshipped as faceless blocks of stone. An earthquake that killed the city in one afternoon. Every answer archaeologists find opens 3 more questions. Which of these mysteries has an explanation, and which one proves we've been wrong about everything? The Nabateans controlled trade routes from Arabia to Mediterranean ports. Frankincense, myrrh, spices moving north. They turned a desert basin with 8 inches of annual rainfall into a metropolis with fountains. That alone should be impossible. Then the water stopped, the trade routes shifted, earthquakes hit, and by 700 AD, almost nobody lived there. Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt found it again in 1812. He had to disguise himself as an Arab merchant, use the alias Sheikh Ibrahim ibn Abdallah, lie to his Bedouin guide about making an offering at a tomb just to get inside. He couldn't stay long, couldn't take measurements, couldn't admit what he'd found. But Europe heard. Archaeologists followed. Excavation started in 1929, nearly 2 centuries of digging. We've uncovered 15% of the city. 15. The rest waits underground, by Charles Ortloff, analyzing Nabatean pipeline systems with computational fluid dynamics. Now back to the information. In 2003, archaeologists found 2 tombs on the left side of the structure. Partial remains, never published the data. Ground-penetrating radar this year showed chambers on the right side. Dr. Pierce Paul Kriesman from American Center of Research led the dig. Dr. Richard Bates from University of St. Andrews ran the radar. Jordanian Department of Antiquities approved. They went down 6 meters. Men, women, children. Articulated burials, bones haven't been moved, bronze vessels, iron implements, ceramic jars, 1 skeleton clutching a chalice that looks identical to the movie prop from Last Crusade. It's actually the top of a broken jug, 1st century BC. This is the largest collection of human remains ever found in one place at Petra. Most tombs are empty or looted. These people weren't touched for 2,000 years. Kriesman tells CNN it's hugely rare. Bates tells NPR if you look at all other tombs in Petra, only a few have human remains, and those are fragmentary. This has 12 complete bodies. They're buried at prime real estate, main entrance to the city. They must have been important. Royal family, elite class. The tomb is 18 feet by 18 feet, 9 feet tall. Preliminary dating 1st century BC to 1st century AD, middle of Nabatean kingdom. No inscriptions, no names, we don't know who they are. Eagles on top to carry souls away, funerary urn that Bedouins shot at with rifles thinking it held treasure. It's solid sandstone, but archaeologists excavated bowls with incense below it, gifts to gods, suggests religious complex. The 2003 excavation found 11 individuals in crypts directly beneath the structure. This 2024 tomb adds 12 more. 23 people total connected to one monument. That's concentration. That's intention. Analyzed correctly, these skeletons could tell us diet, labor, disease, family relations. Teeth show what they ate. Bones show how hard they worked. DNA shows if they're related. Researchers need funding to exhume and study properly. Right now, the bodies sit in place. The discovery might completely change what we know about the treasury. Petra received 8 inches of rain per year. Romans in the same era got water from aqueducts hundreds of kilometers long. Petra had no river. Nearest springs were distant. Flash floods through the SIQ canyon could destroy everything. Yet 20,000 people lived there. Gardens flourished. Pools and fountains ran. 3 major pipeline systems fed the city. SIQ system from Ain Musa Spring, Ain Brak system, Wadi Mataha system. Each designed differently for different terrain. Drop shafts at intervals. Water falls vertically, dissipates energy, prevents structural damage. The design uses partial flow in consecutive sections. Partial critical flow in each section reduces leakage and maximizes flow rate. That's hydrodynamics. The Nabateans understood that pressurized systems leak. Open channel flow at near critical angle avoids pressure. Maximum carrying capacity matched to spring supply rate. Wadi Mataha pipeline stretches 5 miles. Tens of thousands of handmade terracotta sections socketed together. Platform elevated above dry riverbed. The slope is 2.2 degrees from horizontal. Research by Dr. Charles Ortloff, published 2014 in Journal of Archaeological Science, shows that angle maximizes flow rate for that specific pipeline. Deviation of even 1 degree causes decreased flow and frequent leakage. The math required to calculate that angle wasn't developed in Western science until 2,000 years later. Other supply lines like Wadi Musa use 4-degree optimal angle. Different pipelines, different slopes, each calculated for terrain and demand. The Nabateans must have observed water flow patterns under different conditions, ran tests, recorded results. No documents survive, but the pipes prove the knowledge. Ayenbrak pipeline includes an offshoot segment leading to collection basin adjacent to main line. Eliminates upstream water surges from downstream flow instabilities. 2 steep pipelines lead to residential sector. Without the surge control system would fail. This hydraulic discovery wasn't reported in literature until Ortloff's 2020 analysis in MDPI Water Journal. Petra's system managed scarce water to provide constant potable supply for 20,000 permanent residents, plus reserves for caravan arrivals and drought periods. Hundreds of underground cisterns across the city, every drop of rainwater captured, stored, used. Channels carved along cliff faces with slopes gentle enough to prevent erosion but steep enough to maintain flow. Some channels only centimeters wide, yet kilometers long. Internal wall surface roughness patterns maximized flow rates, technique that predates Western discovery by 20 centuries. Roman engineers viewed the Nabatean system as near optimum and made few changes after annexation in 106 AD. The system balanced reservoir storage with continuous pipeline flow to maintain supply through wet and dry seasons. Flood control dams diverted catastrophic torrents from Saiku into channel systems, turning danger into resource. Petra wasn't just surviving in desert, it was thriving. That hydraulic mastery kept the city flourishing for centuries. 15% uncovered after 2 centuries of excavation. What's left to find? Petra sprawls over 100 square miles, 264 square kilometers. Hundreds of tombs visible. Rock-cut theater seating 8,500. Temple of winged lions. Qasr al-Bint Temple standing over 75 feet tall. Monastery ad-Dair, requiring 800 steps to reach. Colonnaded street with market stalls. Nymphaeum fountain. Residential quarters at Ez Zantor, high place of sacrifice with altar, royal tombs carved into cliff faces. All this is 15%. 590s AD proving city, still flourishing in 6th century. Information inside those documents established contracts, land sales, taxes. The last reference to Byzantine Petra comes from Spiritual Meadow of John Moschus, written first decades of 7th century, mentions Bishop Athenagenes. Documents on perishable supports disappeared except few papyri. 90% of survival texts are signatures. Giant square monuments scattered outside city walls. Nobody knows why they're there, what their purpose is. Legend says genies inside protect the capital. The majority of Petra, including living quarters, sits untouched beneath sand and rubble. Archaeologists estimate decades more excavation needed just to map what's accessible. Preservation is constant battle. Sandstone erodes from wind, rain, temperature changes. Pink and red and yellow rock faces lose definition. Earthquakes in 363 AD and later centuries collapsed structures. Some rebuilding happened, but many buildings stayed ruins. Crusaders built fortresses in 12th century, then abandoned. By 1800s, Bedouins lived in tombs. Modern excavation brings tourism, which brings foot traffic, which brings wear. Every season reveals something new, but raises more questions. Ground beneath treasury held tomb for 2,000 years until 2024. What else waits? How many more chambers? How many skeletons? How many artifacts? 85% is massive number. That's most of an entire civilization still hidden. 95% are short or graffiti. Vast majority undated. 4,000 to 7,000 more Sinaitic inscriptions remain unpublished. The Nabatean script descended from Aramaic alphabet, developed 2nd century BC, used until 4th or 5th century AD. It's the direct precursor of Arabic script. Cursive Nabatean became Arabic from 4th century onward. That's why Nabatean letter forms are intermediate between Northern Semitic scripts like Hebrew and Arabic. Numerals built from characters for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 100. First deciphered 1840 by Edward Friedrich Ferdinand Beer. Inscriptions found in Petra, Sinai Peninsula, Basra, Namara in Syria, Abda in Israel, Madain Saleh in Saudi Arabia. Oldest inscription found in Elusa in Negev mentions Aretas, king of Nabateans, dated 169 BC. Earliest cursive inscription unearthed Horvat Rakik near Beersheba, written with ink on rock. Similar texts on papyrus found in Babatha Archive. Tomb warnings at Madain Saleh pairing goddess Manotu with Dushara to curse violators. Dedicatory inscriptions on altars. Bronze fragments with inscriptions found at Wadi Musa, including oil burner with dedication by priest and his son. Metallic coins with inscriptions. But nothing tells us their history in their own words. The kingdom extended from Western Aramaic-speaking regions to eastern and southern areas where old Arabic dialects are attested. Society was multilingual, sedentary and nomadic populations, diverse origins, different social strata. Professional scribes composed monumental inscriptions. Common people scratched signatures and graffiti. Shepherds left inscriptions on rocks, proving widespread literacy. Names often denote skill or class. Wakilu means steward, Nashku means weaver, Shumrahu means branch laden with dates. Some names include god elements like Baal found in Sinai but not other Nabatean regions. Theophoric names and epitaphs throw indirect light on religious life. This makes scholars suggest Nabateans spoke Old Arabic dialect while using Aramaic for official documents, but evidence is unlikely to tell us what language persons spoke in any part of cultural area at any period. No use of Jewish, Palestinian Aramaic in Dead Sea Valley depended on politics. Script wasn't vehicle of political expression. Terms like national scripts can be misleading. In Haran, Petra's script coexisted with local forms rather than dominating. We have graffiti proving they could write. So why leave no written evidence of glory? No chronicles of kings, no records of trade, no myths, no prayers. The silence is deliberate or accidental loss. Either way, it's mystery. Dushara means Lord of Mountain, probably Lord of Shar Mountains north of Petra. Supreme God, protector of royal house. Saphitic inscriptions call him son of goddess Al-Lat. He assembled in heavens with other deities, called Dushara from Petra in one inscription. Expected to bring justice if summoned by correct ritual, after kingdom fell to Romans 106, AD religion declined. Dushara lost prominence, became associated with Zeus, Dionysus, Helios. Al-Uzza means the mighty one, goddess of power, war, love, morning, and evening stars. Venerated in city of Petra with cult centered in Quraysh and Hurad Valley north of Mecca. Associated with type of betel, characterized by star-like eyes, linked to Aphrodite during Hellenization. Pre-Islamic Arabs regarded her as daughter of Allah alongside Al-Lat and Manawat. Other deities included Al-Qam warrior god who guards caravans, equivalent to Greek Ares, Al-Qutbeh god of learning and commerce, identified with Hermes, Al-Lat goddess of spring and fertility, associated with Athena, Manawat goddess of destiny, linked with Nemesis, foreign gods Isis from Egypt, depicted at treasury and temple of winged lions, other goddess from Syria with original cult center at Hierapolis also worshipped, relationships between gods not always clear. In some regions, gods and goddesses paired as husband and wife, in other areas not. Dushara sometimes called husband of Al-Lat, sometimes her son. Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, Manawat, sometimes referred to as daughters of high god Allah, sometimes Al-Lat and Al-Uzza considered same goddess. Inscriptions bearing their names not found in same areas. In Petra processions, likely connected temples. Qasr el-Bint probably dedicated to Dushara, temple of winged lions possibly to Al-Uzza, though identity uncertain. Evidence shows Dushara and Al-Uzza as primary deities. Phrase Dushara and all the gods appears in inscriptions. Wherever God's listed, he appears first. Sometimes enhanced with schematic eyes and nose. Black stone 4 feet tall, 2 feet wide, standing on gold base described in historical account. Blood of animal victims poured on stone. This is Northern Arabian heritage, part of tradition among Semitic nomads in deserts before Islam. Preference for worshipping stones is extraordinary theme. Under Greek and Roman influence, Nabateans made some statues. Combined betel and bearded male figure depictions found for Dushara. But default was aniconic, reluctance about or rejection of images. Temple at Khirbet Ed Dari, 7 kilometers south of Hurawa, remarkably well preserved. Outer and inner courtyard, paved pathway to porticos, benches arranged as theatron. Temple divided 3 sections, large open vestibule, Shella painted rich, vibrant colors, Motab, and betel at back. Square podium, flanked by stairs, serving as seat of divine. Despite excellent condition, we don't know which god worshipped there. No inscriptions. Qasr al-Bint walls preserved over 75 feet, built as Roman temple with colonnaded porch leading to Holy of Holies. Post-Nabatean inscription fragments mention Zeus suggesting Dushara, but not confirmed. Temple of Winged Lions excavated objects suggest raised platform was veiled housing ritual items. Epiphanius of Salamis, 4th century, claimed birth of Dushara, celebrated in temples at Petra and Elusa, wooden image brought from underground room and carried 7 times around innermost shrine. But we can't verify. 9:23 on Julian calendar, 2 earthquakes 6 hours apart. First shock at 3rd hour, second shock at 9th hour of night between Sunday and Monday. 22 towns in Palestine and Syria destroyed. Great loss of life. Syriac letter attributed to Bishop Cyril of Jerusalem documents major destruction at Petra. Archaeological evidence confirms widespread collapse. Effects extended across Jordan River to Transjordan. Hippos overlooking Sea of Galilee shows structural failures not rebuilt until decades later. Excavations at Hippos by University of Haifa uncovered destruction layer in Roman basilica, and bathhouse dated 363 CE through coins and ceramics beneath collapsed roof tiles. Skeletons crushed under debris, including woman with gold dove pendant. Sudden failure, consistent with seismic activity. Nabertain synagogue collapsed. Phase 2. B, ending in uniform destruction layer. At Petra, the theater took significant damage. Qasr al-Bint temple affected. Residential buildings on Colonnaded Street partially destroyed. Water infrastructure shattered. Wealthy houses at Easy Xantor, destroyed then rebuilt, used again during Byzantine period until another earthquake, possibly 419 AD. Some domestic rooms repaired, but civic buildings ceased functioning for extended period. Population relocated near springs. Coin evidence from Colonnaded Street shows shops still used 4th and 5th centuries, but activity diminished. Trade routes already shifting north and toward sea. Petra's importance as hub declining. The earthquake accelerated collapse. Scholars suggest survival of bishopric had more to do with churches proselytizing among northern Arabian tribes than large Christian community in Petra itself. 551 AD, another earthquake. 631 AD, another. 746 AD earthquake destroyed much of city and nearby Humaima. After each quake, people rebuilt, but on smaller scale. Final destruction. 746 hastened total abandonment. By 700, most residents gone. Bedouins moved into tombs, Crusaders briefly in 12th century, then silence. Tiberias on Sea of Galilee severely damaged. Sepphoris north, northwest of Nazareth hit hard. Nabatean Synagogue in Upper Galilee collapsed completely. Hippos across Jordan River shows structural failures. The effects documented 21 to 23 towns across Palestine per Cyril's letter. Ensuing fires and heavy rains added to destruction after initial shocks. Rockfalls triggered in Kiryat Shemona dated through optical stimulated luminescence to 363. Seismites in Dead Sea sediment cores match time frame. Tombstone from Safi shows death during earthquake May 18, 363, preserved in Museum of Lowest Place on Earth. The ground stopped shaking. The water stopped flowing. The people stopped coming back. Petra survived as shell. Byzantine bishops presided over remnants. Churches built from ruins. But city as trade hub, as power center, as Nabatean capital, finished that day in May. 6 columns on lower level, 4 embedded in rock, 2 freestanding. Central columns were missing until 1960s restoration. Entire facade supported by cliff, Hellenistic style reflecting Alexandria influence, greatest city in Eastern Mediterranean at time. Relief sculpture and acroteria showing Greco-Roman aesthetics. Upper level has Amazons and Victories flanking central female figure on Tholos, probably goddess. Corinthian capitals. Frieze with winged griffins and vases among scrolls. Funerary urn on top with bullet holes from Bedouin rifles. No structural drawings found. No construction records. No architect's name. Proportional dimensions. Modern architects struggle to achieve that accuracy with laser levels and computer modeling. Nabateans had ropes, chisels, eyes. Ad-Dir Monastery 50 meters wide, 45 meters high, 108 columns, larger than Treasury. 800 rock-cut steps lead to it, carved same way, top down, hanging from ropes. During winter solstice light of setting sun enters through gate and illuminates sacred motab inside. Alignment requires astronomical observation and geometric calculation. Each one hand chiseled. Total volume of removed rock is staggering. Where did debris go? Some used for fill and construction elsewhere. Rest cleared from valley. Labor required for centuries of carving is immense. Organization, planning, resource management. Qasr al-Bint built traditional Roman temple style, but erected 1st century BC, before Roman annexation, showing Nabatean adoption of architectural forms. Critics argue nomadic Arabs couldn't build this. Must be earlier civilization. But evidence says otherwise. Nabatean pottery found throughout site. Nabatean inscriptions on structures. Construction techniques consistent across time periods. Chisel marks match tools from era. Carbon dating of organic materials confirms dates. The Nabateans weren't primitive nomads when they built Petra. They were wealthy traders who accumulated fortune through incense routes, adopted technologies from Seleucid, Greek, Roman, Egyptian civilizations through trade contacts, hired skilled craftsmen, invested profits in monumental architecture. Transition from nomadic to urban happened over generations. By 1st century BC, they had resources and knowledge. Still, the scale and precision impress. How many workers? How many years? How did they maintain straight lines and symmetry without modern tools? Mystery isn't whether Nabateans built it. Mystery is how they achieved that level of perfection. Caravans with hundreds of camels, guards protecting loads, stations along routes providing water and security, tariffs collected at checkpoints. Petra sat at crossroads. Northern routes to Syria, western routes to Egypt, eastern routes to Mesopotamia, southern routes to Arabia. Wealth accumulated. 1st century BC Petra became full capital. Rulers raking considerable profits from international trade, extending from India to Rome. But we have no shipping manifests, no account books, no records of tariffs or prices or volumes. Greek and Roman authors describe Nabatean trade. Strabo mentions wealth from incense. Diodorus Siculus describes how Nabateans grew rich by supplying spice trade. Josephus mentions conflicts with Hasmoneans. But Nabateans left no commercial records. Coins found show trade connections. Nabatean coins in Egypt, Italy, Arabia. At Puteoli in Italy, shrine to Deshara indicates Nabatean presence mid-1st century BC. City was nexus for trade to Near East, but no ledgers. Documentation existed, but hasn't been found. The 85% underground might hold archives, storage rooms, administrative centers, or everything was burned in earthquakes and invasions. Regardless, we're left inferring economic system from effects rather than sources. Petra's wealth is obvious: monumental architecture, water systems, urban planning, luxury goods. How wealth was managed, how much wealth exactly, how trade was organized day to day, unknown. We see results, we don't see receipts. Water supply calculations, theater seating, market area, food production capability, number of tombs. These give ranges, not precise counts. Ortloff's analysis shows pipeline capacity adequate for 20,000 plus reserves for caravans and drought. Theater seats, 8,500, suggesting gatherings that size were common. If theater represents a significant fraction of population, then total might be 15 to 20,000. If only fraction attended, then higher. Residential quarters at Easy Xantor and other areas show houses for perhaps a few thousand families. Multiply by household size, 4 to 6 people, get tens of thousands. Jewish community existed. Dead Sea Scrolls mention Nabateans, some Nabateans forcibly converted to Judaism by Hasmonean king Alexander Jannaeus, per historian Paul Johnson. Christian community grew in Byzantine period. Multiple ethnic and religious groups in one city complicates headcount. Peak population probably 1st century BC to 1st century AD before Roman annexation. Decline started after 106 when Romans redirected trade and imposed control. 363 earthquake emptied neighborhoods. By Byzantine era, much smaller. By 700s, nearly abandoned. But exact numbers at any point. Speculation based on indirect evidence. We know Petra was major city. We don't know how major. Urn tomb large with colonnaded courtyard, later converted to Byzantine church. Silk tomb with striped stone layers giving name. Corinthian tomb, mimicking treasury design. Palace tomb, 3 stories, with complex arrangement resembling Hellenistic palace. All carved into cliff on street of facades. All labeled royal because of scale and elaboration. But no inscriptions identify occupants. Byzantine Christians added apse and made it church. Greek inscription from 447 AD describes transformation. But who was buried there originally? No name. Silk tomb's colorful striations made it visually striking. Interior simpler than facade. Corinthian tomb damaged by erosion, columns and capitals partially collapsed. Architectural style suggests 1st century AD. Palace tomb 5 doorways, 46 columns across 3 levels. Largest tomb facade at Petra, influenced by Roman architecture. Back wall carved to look like palace exterior. Interior doesn't match facade complexity, but still no inscription confirming Aridus. Some scholars suggest treasury was temple to goddess Al-Uzza or other deity. Debate continues. Other royal tombs lack even circumstantial attribution. They're called royal because they're too elaborate for commoners. That's assumption, not proof. Elite merchants could afford elaborate tombs. Priests, military leaders, we don't know. Nabatean kings, known from other sources. Coins, foreign texts, inscriptions outside Petra. Aridus, first mentioned 169 BC. Aretas, second around 100 BC. Obotus, first deified after death, became god Obotus. Aretas III, expanded kingdom. Aretas IV oversaw peak prosperity. Malachus I, second. Rabel II, last king before Roman annexation. We have names, we don't have graves. Where are kings buried? Maybe treasury. Maybe palace tomb? Maybe undiscovered tombs in unexcavated areas. Or maybe royal burial practices differed from monuments. Maybe monuments are cenotaphs, memorial markers, not actual graves. Maybe actual burials are simple and modest, while monuments are public. We have royal architecture, we don't have royal bones. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from National Geographic article published December 1720-24 by Aaron Blakemore and University of St. Andrews. Press release published October 16/2024, documenting the tomb discovery beneath the treasury. Now back to the information. 3rd century BC Nabateans are nomadic tribe. 1st century BC, they're building monumental city. That's 2 centuries. How? Traditional narrative says they settled at Petra around 300 BC. Strategic location, defensible cliffs, access to water if managed properly, control of trade routes, early phase simple shelters, tents, basic structures, accumulation of wealth through facilitating incense trade, initially just middlemen moving goods, investment in water infrastructure allowing permanent settlement, growth into trading center attracting craftsmen, architects, foreign influences, adoption of Hellenistic architectural styles, Petra established as capital 2nd century BC, rapid construction 1st century BC under Aretas, 3rd and 4th, peak prosperity just before Roman annexation 106 AD. Process took centuries, not decades. But critics point to sophistication of result. How did nomads acquire engineering knowledge for water systems that rival Rome's? How did they learn to carve facades with precision that challenges modern ability? How did they organize labor for projects requiring thousands of workers over decades? Alternative theory suggests earlier civilization built Petra's major structures, and Nabateans occupied and modified them. Edomites lived in region before Nabateans. Some argue Edomite construction predates Nabatean, but archaeological evidence doesn't support this. Pottery, inscriptions, construction techniques all date to Nabatean period. No evidence of earlier monumental phase. Knowledge transferred through trade networks. Nabateans hired foreign experts, adapted technologies, combined influences into unique synthesis, wealth from trade-funded construction. Petra's hydraulic engineering shows familiarity with Roman, Greek, Eastern techniques, but also original innovations. Water systems incorporate partial critical flow concept, not documented elsewhere until much later. That's not copying. That's understanding principles and applying them. Money buys expertise, trade brings ideas, time allows practice. 2 centuries is long enough for a nomadic tribe to become sophisticated urban society if conditions right. Until then, we trust the archaeology. And archaeology says Nabateans built Petra. During winter solstice, December 21st, sun sets through doorway. Light beam crosses chamber and hits Motab directly. Illuminates sacred space exactly at year's turning point. Same phenomenon happens at other Petra structures. Treasury shows solar alignments. High place of sacrifice has altar aligned to cardinal directions. Calculated angles. Positioned doorways and chambers to capture specific light at specific times. Astronomical knowledge was necessary for agriculture, planting seasons, flood predictions, also religious significance. Sun worship mentioned by Strabo. Dushara called the one who separates night from day in inscriptions suggesting astral character. Scholars favor Venus, Mercury, or Sun as Dushara's celestial aspect. Solar alignments reinforce divine connection. Nabateans must have used surveying tools, plumb lines, measuring rods, sighting devices, recorded observations over years to verify calculations. Builders working on multi-decade projects needed to trust initial surveys. If angle off by degrees, alignment fails. No margin for error. Yet it works. Winter solstice light still hits Motab after 2,000 years. Other ancient structures show similar sophistication. Egyptian temples, Stonehenge, Mayan pyramids, astronomical alignment common in sacred architecture, but Petra's carved into solid rock. Can't adjust if calculation's wrong. Build it once. Get it right. They did. That implies advanced astronomical knowledge and engineering skill. How did they acquire it? Training, observation, borrowing from neighbors, or maybe they invented it. We assume knowledge flowed from established civilizations to newcomers, but maybe Nabateans contributed to astronomical science. Maybe their observations reached Greek and Roman scholars. Trade routes carry ideas both directions. We don't know because Nabateans didn't write it down. We see alignment, we don't see calculation. 2 millennia later, the math holds. That's the mystery, not whether they did it, how they knew to do it. Gods worshipped as faceless stones, earthquake that killed the city in one afternoon. Architectural precision impossible without modern tools, trade wealth with no trade records, population estimates with no census, royal tombs with no names, nomads who built metropolis, solar alignments calculated without instruments. Ground-penetrating radar from University of St. Andrews 2024 shows chamber underneath treasury, tomb sealed 2,000 years, articulated skeletons, bronze, ceramic, iron grave goods, chalice that looks like Hollywood prop, real vessel broken jug, 1st century BC. 12 people buried prime location main entrance to city. They must have mattered. Who were they? No inscriptions tell us, bones might. DNA could reveal family relationships. Teeth show diet. Skeletal wear indicates labor. Funding needed to properly exhume and analyze. Right now they sit in darkness, where they've sat for 2 millennia. Petra keeps them buried. Sandstone erodes, earthquakes collapse, time covers. Archaeologists dig, tourists walk past. Desert wind blows through sick, red cliffs stand. Questions remain. That's the nature of the place. City carved into stone. Mysteries carved into silence. 12 skeletons waiting 2,000 years. 12 mysteries waiting longer. We find one answer. Petra offers 3 more puzzles. That's the promise. That's the curse. That's Petra,